First and foremost, like, thanks so much for wanting to chat with me. I was really excited when DABC said to me that they were interested in having me talk about the Registered Disability Savings Plan because I've had mine for like 20 years. But for anyone who doesn't, first and foremost, know who you are and what you do, maybe just
Yeah.
give a brief introduction because obviously having people in your corner that can support you to learn more about the RDSP during
Yeah.
RDSP Awareness Month is the first, I think, is the first step personally.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so happy to be here and to chat with you today, Marco. My name is Liz, and I'm here representing the Access RDSP Partnership. So this is actually a partnership of three different nonprofit organizations that are based in BC, but two of the three support people all across Canada. And of course, we look to DABC as our provincial partner and the stronghold here. So that would be Plan Institute, the organization that I'm a program manager with, as well as the BC Aboriginal Network on Disability Society, also known as Indigenous Disability Canada. They kind of go by both names and provide Indigenous specific navigation and support, not just with the RDSP, but with a whole host of disability planning. And then, of course, Disability Alliance BC as well. So this partnership has been started, we're 8 years now. It was 2016 that it was started.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, really, the goal of that was try to reduce barriers to and increase the uptake of the RDSP and the disability tax credit, which is one of the main eligibility criteria to open up the RDSP.
So, I mean, what does that look like? Because I know I've had the disability tax credit, I think,
Mhm.
since I was about 18 years old, just because right away, our family accountant was like, no, Marco, you got to look at this for, tax bracket savings and all these types of
Yeah.
things. So that was really good. And that was before I even applied for the Registered Disability Savings Plan. So
Mhm.
obviously, you just mentioned that there's a prerequisite there to get an RDSP that you need the disability tax credit. What does that look like for people? Because I'm sure
Mhm.
for many people with disabilities, it's really hard to navigate a bunch of the paperwork that's involved in this. I'm assuming you got to work with a medical
Mhm.
professional to get that approved. So what does that look like?
Yeah, no, very good question. And it can definitely feel overwhelming to a lot of folks. So, the disability tax credit, it's also referred to as the T2201 form through the Canada Revenue Agency. So, it's something that is actually applied to through the Canada Revenue Agency. And really, it can be quite a large form. It's got 16 pages.
Wow.
And it seems like a lot, but it's actually been a good thing, a good change to the form because now really, what that form looks at is that you have a severe and prolonged disability. So, prolonged means that your disability has lasted or is expected to last at least 1 year. And then severe, there's a few different ways to qualify depending on your restrictions in the areas of daily living. So, the form looks at things like talking, hearing, walking, feeding, eliminating, which is using the toilet, mental functions necessary for daily life, also looking at whether somebody needs life sustaining therapy. So there's lots of different sections that somebody could qualify under. And so basically the kind of the first step, well, we would suggest reaching out to us for some free support, which
Sure.
would be great to do. But of course, you're welcome to, review this on your own with your medical practitioner, take the form, go through it together, and then hopefully review it, make sure everything looks accurate, and then submit it to the CRA. And then after usually about 3, 4 months, you'll hear back whether you're approved or maybe they need more information. Possibly it's declined. That often happens, I think, first time people apply, especially if they have one of those more kind of gray area conditions where it's not necessarily very clearly, yes, definitely disabled. But also, too, because it's the CRA that's approving them. They're not medical practitioners. So they're looking for very
Sure.
specific language and wording in the form. And so that's one of the supports that Access RDSP offers is providing that one-to-one support, even creating a sample of the application form that's filled out to take to that medical practitioner,
Hmm.
guiding them on knowledge and language, as well as having an amazing free DTC tool if people wanted to kind of look through that themselves.
Okay, that's awesome. Like, and let's get to the exciting stuff for people because they want to know
Yeah.
what kind of returns can something like this do for people. So, when it was positioned to me from my financial
Yeah.
advisor, he said basically you're not going to see something that gives you this kind of return. And I was like, I don't know, is he being hyperbolic? But as I started to make my yearly contributions at whatever value I was able to, so say for example, I have enough money that year to put in maybe $2,000. And I know that that's a lot for a lot of people in the disability community, but
Mhm.
say put in $2,000. Some years when I'm able to do that amount of money or that amount in to the maximum, I mean, the return that I've gotten is an additional like $4,000 plus back from the government in grants and bonds. And so to see those kinds of numbers go up and to know, like for myself, I have a young daughter, she's 3.5 years old. And so to be a family man and to know that I'm providing myself some future assurances by the time I'm 60, that I can make these contributions up to the age of, I think it's 49 years old, is what I was told. Is that correct? That you can make these
So
contributions up to
you
49?
you can contribute up to the end of the year you turn 59, but those government contributions can only be received up until the end of the year you turn 49. So that's where there's
Okay, there
those
we
two
go.
ages there. Yeah.
No, but that's really good to know. And the really cool thing is once you make those contributions and those grants and bonds are in your account, you can move them from the standard like tax-free savings account that they're put in into mutual funds that actually would yield more returns. So not to sound like a Wall Street individual out there, but there's a lot of ways that you can turn, say, for example, $200,000 into $500,000 plus. And I
Mhm.
think that in another conversation, you and I were talking about this, and you had mentioned that
Yeah.
somebody had done just that. So,
Mhm.
is it abnormal to see something like that, or would you make those suggestions to folks to start now, start early, as early as you
Mhm.
can, because those returns can be fantastic?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the government will provide up to $90,000 up until you're 49 years old. And so
Wow,
$20,000 of that is in what they call the bonds, which is just by having the account open and being someone who's low or modest income. So really the freest of free money, you just have to open the account and kind of let it sit there for a while. And really the power of investing is incredible. Like, when I opened my RDSP earlier this year, opened it up and not in a great financial situation. So we can contribute $25 a month, both for my RDSP and then into my wife's. But with the government matching grants, they're putting in $75 per my 25. So that's $100 every month. By
perfect.
the end of this year, there's $1,200 with investments going in. And then also within a few months of opening the account, because my DTC was approved retroactively. So I actually got an extra $5,000 just within 2 months of opening the account for backdated bonds, just
Hmm.
because I opened the account. And I was like, this is a great start.
It is, and that actually I think is the a thing that people need to understand is that there is not really that big of a barrier to entry. You just got to get started, and the fluctuation I found, like obviously some years, especially during the pandemic over the past 4 years, like you wanted to hold on to your money, and so if you need to hold on, if you don't make a contribution within the year, it's not going to close your account or anything like that. Trust me, I
Yeah.
tested it, and it didn't close my account. But then as things got more financially healthy for me, I was able to make larger
Mhm.
contributions. And I think actually, I get a letter from the government every year letting me know that I can
Mhm.
retroactively make contributions for previous years where maybe, say, finances were tighter, and that
Yep.
cap and that window gets larger and larger if you didn't max out your contribution. So obviously, if
Mhm.
I'm feeling lucky or I'm feeling like I want to make a contribution, I can put more money in the following year and just watch
Mhm.
that money grow. Is that right, or am I just making this up?
No, it's right. And actually it's interesting how many people reach out to us asking, is this a scam? Because it sounds too good to be true. But
Right.
it isn't. Like it's the first of its kind in the world. Still to this day, if you're in another country and you have heard otherwise, please let us know. But so far, Canada is the only country that has anything like this for people with disabilities, and it can lead to significant savings for your future. Of course, it's not good to dip into right away. I mean, you get that money from the government, you have to let it sit there for basically 10 years from the date of the
Yeah.
last deposit before you can withdraw. But that is
Gotcha.
really a way to set yourself up for the future. And then, later on in life, you've got this big chunk of money. If you are, it's ready to take withdrawals and you want to put, maybe a down payment for a home or a condo, something that you've really been saving up for but haven't been able to do, that can be an amazing opportunity, or just to help with your regular living expenses, enjoying life.
Yeah, it's actually a really good point. Like many of my friends with disabilities, they aren't fortunate enough right now to own their own home, and so they're in the renters market. So it's almost like if you are renting, but you want to make contributions to your RDSP, do that now, and then if you are able to then put a down payment on a home, even if you are, going to be 60 years old, so what if you're able to do that and get
Hmm.
started? Because this is about, like generational planning as far as I'm concerned, right? Because I want to
Hmm.
make sure that my daughter has assets for herself in the future as well. So really, there's no reason why people shouldn't get started on doing their RDSP. I'm fortunate enough that I was one of the first within
Yeah.
my bank to do this like 20 years ago. So I'm already seeing that growth over time. And I'm telling you, this is not a scam. It's 100% real. And
Yeah.
I'm seeing it happen. And that's what is making it really exciting for me, as we all want to, have our families grow. And, we might have a significant other that we are supporting or that we are providing, supports for, having that peace of mind for anybody in the household, I think is
Mhm.
huge. And that's why I was so excited that DABC asked me to come on and even just talk honestly with all of you guys. My whole thing is authenticity behind my messaging. And this is 100% real for me. Like the RDSP
Yeah.
is going to be a life changer for me. It already has. And, I'm not in a position at all I'm not a financial advisor or anything like this. But what I can say, as somebody who's quite a savvy investor, just from his own home, that these returns have been fantastic. And I can't wait to see what opportunities that they'll afford me in the future with my family when I'm ready to make those withdrawals
Mhm.
by the age of 60. So.
Yeah, exactly. I know it's that peace of mind is huge. And I think that's the number one thing that people who open the RDSP say to us is like, oh, I didn't think that I would have any possibility to actually be able to retire, that I wouldn't have to worry about my finances and rely solely on disability benefits for the rest of my life. And then they get the RDSP in place and say, you know what? I see some hope. I see that maybe, I'm not
Mm.
financially independent now. I don't have that financial security now, but I'm setting myself up so that at least in the future, I've got that to look forward to. It can be really hard, I think, to plan for the future as well when,
It
now might
can.
be so tough. But just getting that started, again, even if you can't contribute, but have your income taxes filed, you're in the right age, you could get an automatic up to $1,000 per year, just by opening the account. I'm not going to say no to that.
No, exactly. So, I mean, let's leave it at that. I mean, right
Mm.
then and there, there's nothing holding you back. I love that you mentioned hope because so many people need hope in today's times. And just to have that extra peace of mind to know that this is one of those avenues that can support you and your family going forward, I think is great. So, just maybe a quick reminder before we end our chat today, where
Yeah.
can people find out more information if they want to get started? And how can they work with yourself if they're interested in working with you to help them to navigate this process?
Yeah, totally. So within the three partner organizations, we all work with a free national disability planning helpline service. So people can call or email in anytime. The email is info@rdsp.com. And then that phone number is 1-844-311-7526. Of course, you're welcome to check out rdsp.com. We've got a tutorial on there with lots of information and sections on there. We also have a really handy RDSP calculator that you can go through, put in your own information, see what the RDSP could look like in your situation and how much money you could expect to receive in withdrawals later on. And then Disability Alliance BC, they also have an amazing online DTC tool. You can check it out at dabc.ca. And if you are feeling like you're in a little bit more of a comfortable financial situation, they've also set up a fundraiser to help cover the cost of the medical practitioner fees to actually help people complete the DTC application, which we've seen
Wow.
being sometimes as high as $250, maybe even a little bit more. So
Wow.
really hoping to help try to remove that financial barrier. And hopefully, eventually, we'll be able to do that to people across Canada as well. So lots of support is there. Please feel free to reach out absolutely anytime. While October is RDSP Awareness Month, we work with the RDSP all year round. It's always RDSP Awareness Month
Totally.
for us.
That's right. Well, Liz, thank you so much for this valuable information with regards to the program. As I said, it's been a huge game changer for myself and for my family. And as an entrepreneur, I don't have a lot in terms of RRSP contributions and things like this, or
Mhm.
at least a guarantee of, a pension plan like individuals who are in a salaried position in their own organization. And so this was kind of
Yeah.
my avenue that works well for me as a self-employed person. And so this may be speaking to you. If you're watching this video and
Yeah.
you're saying like, why don't I pick up the phone? Why don't you? Why don't you pick up the phone? Why don't you send an email? Why don't you
Yeah.
inquire about more information? Huge shout out to the partners that make this conversation possible, as well as some of the supports that we talked about today. Disability Alliance BC, Plan Institute, and the BC Aboriginal Network on Disability Society. Without these groups, we wouldn't be able to have the resources that support a lot of this conversation, as well as going forward and helping people have peace of mind in approaching the RDSP and doing so with confidence. So thank you so much for having the conversation with me today, and let's keep celebrating the RDSP month throughout the month of October, but beyond that, throughout the rest of the year.
Sounds great, Marco. Let's celebrate together.